All right, my friends, Brian here with VetteSource, back today for our final day of August, where we hopefully will very shortly be seeing some cooler temperatures. Today, what I'm going to do real quick is go over another feature of the Corvettes, the C4s, that kind of also falls in line there with our parking brake handle that we talked about last week. If you hadn't seen that video, that link is up there. What we're going to be using again today is our 96 LT4 car, the aqua metallic, that we've used in several of our other videos for demonstration purposes on how the correct way to do this. But what we're going to work on today is we're going to focus on specifically Targa tops, okay? And the Targa tops on this car. Now this one has both tops. This has the see-through top, removable top, and this one has the body colored top from the factory with the headliner installed, which is a more quiet top, and of course in the summertime is the top you want, especially if you live here in Texas, because it's just too hot for the other top and it'll grill you really badly. So anyway, we're going to go over that today. Kind of showed you the feature there, but first thing we're going to do is I'm going to look in the service manual again, not service manual, the owner's manual, and I'm going to show you a little bit about these tops. Now these tops are known for not their failure rate, but the failure of the owners to properly install these tops, resulting in tops coming off as they're running down the road, flying off, impacting other cars, sliding off into the weeds of the ditch, getting destroyed, and becoming a mess. And then of course you got to go find another top. Now, interesting little trivia piece about this is this see-through top here. They managed to install probably anywhere between 8,000 to 12,000 of these see-through tops on these cars over the entire production run of C4s from 84 to 96. Now, you can see what happens to these as they get older and sun-faded. They're just not meant really to be in hot weather. The weather stripping, not the weather stripping, but the weather stripping as well, but the clear coat gets messed up on these and they get cracked because they're not glass, they're actually plastic. They're an acrylic plastic. And again, like I said, they're just no fun to have on in the summertime. That's why this one's in the back of the car. So, versus the parking brake handle, where we had maybe 2 half pages to describe what was going on here, the Chevrolet Corvette factory decided to give us 5 full pages of description of the roof panel and how not to operate this thing. So I'm going to kind of go through this, read it, and then what I'm going to do is explain to you guys how it works. I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to swap the tops on this car from the blue one to the see-through. So first things first, you got roof panel, and of course it's a coupe, because you get coupe and convertible both. And until you are sure, first thing they say, until you're sure you can remove the panel alone, have someone help you, because they're not overly heavy, but they're bulky. Also, I think this one's hilarious. Even 25 years ago, they had to put the "you're dumber than a box of rocks" descriptions in here. So don't try to remove the roof panel while the vehicle's moving. Trying to remove the roof panel while the vehicle's moving could cause an accident. And if you don't know that already, you probably shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car. Panel could fall into the vehicle, cause you to lose control, fly off and strike another vehicle, which happens often when they're not bolted down properly. You or others could be injured. Remove the roof panel when the vehicle is parked. So, first things first, they tell you, park the car on a level surface. I'm going to tell you right now, if you've had trouble with your roof panel and you can't get it on and off, it's because it's not on a level surface. The level surface has to do with the fact that the roof panel is actually a structural member of the car. It actually tightens the chassis when it's installed from the A pillar back to the B pillar. So when you don't have that installed and you don't have it on a level surface, you're going to see some variations. I want to say it's 1/8 to 1/4 inch, but I may be remembering that correctly in as far as the bolt hole locations, maybe 1/4 inch or less. But anyway, park on level surface, set the parking brake firmly, shift an automatic transmission to park or manual into reverse, lower both your windows, turn the ignition key to lock, and move both sunshades to the side. Okay? You got to remove the ratchet from the console, which this is in the back of the center console. I'll show you when I walk over there. Now, the 96, the one that's in there now, is from an earlier car. It's a different design, but that's a ratchet. If you don't have this, you can get away with a T30 Torx bit and on a wrench drive, and you can actually do the same thing without having that ratchet. That just makes it convenient. So the ratchet's going to be used to loosen the front bolts. Don't remove them they'll stay in place. Another thing, don't try to take them out because they're captive. They stay where they're supposed to be. Same thing with these. These should not be taken out. They're supposed to just come loose. And in the back, there's 3 of them here, the one in the center. So the 2 rear bolts are on the roof, 1 above each seat. You'll see 3 bolts on each side. Loosen the middle one. The ratchet won't work for the other 2. The bolts will stay in the roof panel. Stand on one side of the vehicle, have your helper stand on the other side if you've never done this before. Together, lift the front of the panel up first, then move forward and lift the panel off the vehicle. Now, that's a little bit tricky because the back will tend to fall down if you move it too far forward. So you want to grip it from the side and grip it in the front, but I'll show you in a second. Now, the other thing we've got to look at after we get the top off, of course, is we're going to go, in fact, as far as storing the roof panel, okay? So once you take that thing off, and if you want to store it and take it with you, there's space in the back. As you can see on the other car, the car is sitting there that we've got it. So, but again, we've got another caution to start us out with. The roof panel's not stored properly. It can be thrown about the vehicle in a crash or sudden maneuver. People in the vehicle could be injured. Whenever you store the roof panel in the vehicle, always be sure they're stored securely in the rear area using storage brackets and latch pin. So this is another big thing that I see quite a lot, that the Targa tops, even though people will put them in the back, they're not stored properly. They put them in backwards. They put them in basically the way they see them sitting on top of the car, and that's not the proper way to put them in. They're actually installed with the front facing to the rear and the back facing to the front. So I'll show you here in the diagram in a second, obviously. So you can see it tells you open the rear hatch, look for the 2 brackets in the rear area. Brackets are below the courtesy lamps, which are going to be these right here, okay? You're going to store the roof panel with its top up and its rear pointing forward. Slide the rear corners of the roof panel into the brackets and push forward. Now, the one thing they tell you, a lot of times what people will do is they'll come out there, right? Let me show you, for example, on this car. They'll come out once it's installed, and they'll lift up on this panel. Oops, I drop it. And they'll pull up really far. You see what's happening in those corners? You don't want to go more than 8 inches because it'll crack the corners of the top. It'll damage it and or damage those brackets. So it's actually telling you that there. Don't lift the front edge of the roof panel higher than 8 inches when the corners are in the brackets. If you do, you could damage the roof panel. So essentially we're continuing on. Lower the front of the roof panel, centering over the latch pin. Pull the release towards you and press down on the roof panel. Push the release forward till it latches, and then gently lift up on the roof panel to be sure it's locked into place. Now again, installing the roof panel is going to be the opposite. Same thing, improperly attached roof panel may fall into or fly off the vehicle. You or others could be injured. After installing the roof panel, always check it's firmly attached by pushing up on the underside of the panel and other bolts. So same thing, you got to park it on a level surface or it's never going to go back on there. Taking it off, you can take the panel off on an unlevel surface, but you'll never get it back on an unlevel surface, okay? Set the parking brake, shift automatic transmission, manual transmission reverse. If the roof panel is stored in the rear area, remove it by reversing the steps previously described under storing the roof panel over here. Then we're going to lower the roof panel onto the vehicle rear edge first to locate those holes, and then place the rear guide pins into the holes in the roof opening. Then you're going to lower the front of the roof panel and align the front guide pins. Tighten the rear bolts part way. Don't tighten them all the way because you need to have some room to give here. And then if you tighten the bolts that are improperly started, the threads will become stripped. Be sure all the bolts are properly started before you tighten them. Use the ratchet to start the front bolts while the back ones are still loose, obviously. If the bolts are hard to start, tighten the rear bolts some more. Holding down the panel on the outside will also help. And then you're going to fully tighten the rear bolts, then the front bolts. So you're really going to start with the back bolts first, just to get them started. Then the front bolts, tighten them down all the way, then finish up on the back bolts. And then obviously afterwards, if you hear a popping noise when you drive, the bolts may not be tight enough. Be sure to tighten them securely. So 5 pages devoted to installing, removing, installing, and storing the top here. What we're going to do now is in just a second, we're going to go ahead and do this, switch these tops out. We're going to take that blue top off the top there. We're going to take it off. We're going to put this clear one on, and I'm going to stow the blue one so you can see how all 3 operations are performed. So I'm going to get set up, and we'll do this in just a second. All right, so now we're inside the car. Of course, we're going to go to our center console and grab our tool that's in the back here. And of course, this is, as I mentioned, this is an earlier tool right here, so it's the wrong one. But it still works for our purposes. So what we're going to do is go ahead and loosen. I've kind of pre-loosened these already so you can see. There's our back bolt there, and all that does is come out. Now these, sometimes this one comes out because somebody probably released these, and I'll bet you, let me see if they're gone from this one. Yeah, they are. That's why they did that, because they lost the bolts to the other one. So that one's out there. So when they come over here, we've got this one loose already. So we got that one out. And then of course, to get the ones in the front, we move those to the side. And we're gonna put that straight up into that hole till we feel that bolt. And we're gonna use a ratchet to loosen that up. And you'll be able to see over here where that actually comes up. I should be able to, yeah, see how I can push that? Okay, and the other side, that just shows my broken piece there. We're gonna go ahead and finish removing this one. Okay, and I can tell by the way that's bouncing around, that one's done. And normally I suggest not pushing against this headliner because you'll get imprints in it. This one's already kind of fallen down, but you can see how that moves for us right there. So let me climb back out of the car again. I'm gonna move these kind of out of my way a little bit. See if I can reposition. There's another thing on our problem list we need to fix, is that broken hinge right there. See if I can figure out a way to get this to show you guys what we're doing there. There we go. Let's see here. If I can keep it from falling. There we go. Okay, so we're lifting up on the front right here. We're gonna move this forward just a little bit so I can get my fingers back there. And then we're gonna pull straight off. Okay? Now, you can see here where those captive bolts stay in that top assembly right there, so that's where they're gonna be. And then what I'm gonna do right here, basically the same kind of thing. I'm gonna pull back, make sure it's in our field of view there. I'm gonna pull back. Is that in my field of view? I'll just do it here. I'll pull back and push up. There we go. And you see that locator hole in the front of that tab? That's what lets me know that that's there. And of course, I come out of those sides there and rest it right there temporarily while I relocate this to the front so you guys can see how I put this back on here. Let's see. Okay, right there. All right. Now on the see-through tops, I just grab them from one corner in the front leading edge like this. Come over carefully. Set down on the back and drop it in the front. So that's back in again, okay? So let's go ahead and come back in here. Not much room to work with in here, but we're gonna go ahead, get those bolts started. And usually if they're done like this, where people have already removed them, I just start them by hand, okay? And remember, there's that dowel pin they were talking about to get started in there. And then we'll do this one right here. See if that's far back enough for you guys to see. There you go. And we are started there. All right, now we're gonna go to the front. We're gonna switch direction on our ratchet, and you'll be able to see here, and that, still going the wrong direction, there we go, okay. Sometimes this will go in pretty easily. The front latches have an actual lateral side to side and up to down movement, and the back latches actually have some movement as well, and they're also shimmed in the back just in case the tolerances from the factory are not quite right. They'll shim them just to get them in there correctly. So you can see that top starting to come down there. That one's in. That one's in. We'll go ahead and get this one. Oops, I switched positions again. That's the only thing I don't like about the earlier top tools, is they move relatively easy. And you don't want to use electric tools on these because they're too easy to strip out and break. And believe it or not, sometimes the hardware for these is just as expensive as the tops. And you don't want to break this frame on the top. This frame is metal. It's like a pot metal. And they're really hard to have fixed and repaired. And then of course you can see I'm bashing into the acrylic grass as it is, but and that is a long bolt, but there you go. So that's it. That's the top installed. So let's go and put that back down. Our camera's not overheating, which is good because it's still hot. So let's go ahead and we'll put this top, the blue top, in the back so you can see what's going on. Let's see, I'm trying to get my view here, guys. Okay, so come over, grab it. Right. This is where you do want to come and be careful when you're handling it, getting over this corner, because it's a little tough to get. You can put on the carpeted sections right in front of those brackets, and then move one side in, the other side in. And there's that receiving hole right there. We're gonna drop it, move it, and it locks into place just like that. That's it, guys. That's all there is to it. Now again, if you haven't done this before, get a helper, keep them with you. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. Definitely. All right, well, thanks for tuning in today, guys. That's gonna wrap things up for me. It's hot. I've spent enough time out here doing this, and of course now we're set up for wintertime driving, even though it's still warm. So I'll be back with you guys next week. Let me know what you think, and if you got any questions, just leave them below in the comments. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching, guys.